The Chinese government is continuing to reduce the difference in policies between foreign businesses and domestic businesses. The introduction of the new social insurance law and the application to foreign businesses now continues along this trend that we've seen taking place really since the mid-2000s. The social insurance law requires foreign employees, whether they work for a Chinese company or whether they work for a foreign company in China, to now pay into 5 mandatory insurance accounts. These cover things like pensions, medical insurance, maternity insurance, and the such. Many of these have not been required to be paid by foreign employees in the past. They've been exempt from this. By adding this in, the Chinese government is looking at a few different things. Number one, it increases overall the funding going into its social services. This is important as China's wealth gap grows and as the Chinese look at potential economic problems coming down the road and the amount of money they have available to deal with medical issues and things like that in the country. It also starts to increase in some ways some of the cost to foreign companies, not necessarily as a way to undermine the foreign companies, but as a way to level the playing field and allow the Chinese companies to compete fairly evenly. China has long given preferential treatment to foreign businesses. This was particularly notable throughout the 1990s and into the early 2000s as the Chinese were really trying to draw in more investment, trying to speed up their economic growth rates, and also trying to draw in technology. By the mid-2000s, the Chinese started to change this. They altered the corporate income tax law, for example. Prior to that point, foreign businesses paid a substantially lower income tax rate than did domestic Chinese businesses. That encouraged foreign businesses to come to China, but it also ended up encouraging Chinese businesses to basically take their money, put it in outside banks, and then round trip it back into the country. It contributed to speculative hot money flows. Really, it lost Beijing some control over what was going on within its own economy. They equalized this. Around the same time in the mid-2000s, there was a rise in the activities of the All-China Federation of Trade Unions. The ACFTU moved not only to try to expand its influence within Chinese businesses, but then started targeting foreign businesses. And the big success for the ACFTU was really in 2008 in July when they signed their first deal with Walmart and Walmart accepted union representation. That gave the Chinese government the ability to control better wages paid by foreign businesses and the way in which foreign businesses treated their employees. The ACFTU continues to try to expand to ultimately have chapters in all foreign run and operated businesses. As we look at the new social insurance law, we see that in some ways this may actually disproportionately target the lower end of the workers. One of the things is that there's some talk about a cap so that you only have to pay these social insurance taxes on the equivalent of what would be 3 times the local average salary. So if your salary is substantially higher than that, you're not taxed on anything above that. This is not going to hit, for example, the foreign executives very hard. And there may be ways for companies to kind of move around, particularly with bringing in very highly skilled labor. But where it does hit is in the low-end manufacturing. It hits in the low-end areas. One of the things we've seen in China is that the increased labor cost has actually gotten both Chinese and foreign companies to try to bring in even lower-end labor from abroad, from Laos, from other places in Southeast Asia. Well, now that these new taxes are being applied to all foreign workers, that would also include these foreign workers, which means that the savings that may have been there from working them at under the new minimum wage rates are gone as you have to pay these insurance rates on them. In the end, what we see is not necessarily a China that's trying to undercut or unfairly target foreign companies, rather to China that's trying to even out the playing field, but really a China that's developed its internal system such that it no longer feels that it's entirely dependent upon this constant inflow of foreign money, foreign investment, foreign businesses, foreign operations in China. We also see a China that's trying to change its economic structure. And to do so, it requires some adjustments in its wage levels. It requires adjustments in its tax structures. In the end, the Chinese are struggling with this issue of wage disparity, with wealth distribution, and they're looking for any ways that they can to grab a little bit of extra money to be able to focus that and push it down through the economy so that they can even out some of that gap.